When the human system loses direction, there is a condition that quietly emerges in modern life. It does not announce itself as an illness. Oh, I have arrived on a disease. It does not show up, at least not clearly, in diagnostic tools and lab tests. People function, they perform what is expected of them, they cope with what life is throwing at them, and yet something essential is missing. They don't say, I'm depressed, which then you can work with. They say, I am fine. But something is missing. Or, there's nothing really wrong in life, but I don't really feel alive. This state is not a state of emotional weakness or being lost. It is not failure. I want you to know that it's not even a lack of effort. It is fundamentally a loss of direction, not knowing where your true north lies. And when that sense of true north disappears, the system as a whole does not break. Actually, it adapts. But it adapts downwards to a lower state of well-being and engagement. Actually, engagement circuitry begins to quieten. Not the circuits of pleasure, which you can continue to pursue, but the circuit of movement towards a wholesome life. Energy is conserved. You no longer want to do much. Initiation slows down. You don't raise your hand and volunteer for things. Your curiosity fades. You're no longer curious about the world or life in general. The nervous system at this point is not asking for stimulation. It is asking a far more basic questions. Why should I invest in all of this? A truly important fundamental question. So let me say that again. When life loses direction or a sense of what really is my true north, the human system does not totally collapse, which you would notice, but it sort of downshifts into a lower gear. Engagement feels meaningless. Effort feels heavier. Energy feels wasted. Now, this is not loneliness or laziness. It is an intelligent body or the intelligence of biology responding to a life with no clear sense of meaning. The nervous system does not respond to pressure. It responds to a sense of direction and initiation towards a true north. At the same time, an internal balance also shifts. The default mode networks becomes dominant. Default mode network is how our brain is used to normally operating. The thoughts loops increase. There's more rumination. So instead of actually doing something, we tend to think and think and think and think again about the same thing. People call this overthinking. Biologically, it is reduced mobilization of your curiosity. The system is active, but without a sense of purpose. The stress physiology also changes quietly. Cortisol does not spike, so you don't think the biomarkers are going high, but it stays longer in your body. And longer the cortisol stays, the more inflammation arises. So all inflammatory signaling starts rising subtly. Sleep is still there, but it loses its depth. Recovery from activity slows. Nothing here is dramatic and earth-shattering. But over time, the system begins to age faster than it should. Remember how the frog boiled slowly till one day it fully boiled? That is why I always say chronic meaninglessness always precedes burnout. Before your system collapses, you have a sense of feeling lost and nothing matters. This is also why resilience fades before physical symptoms appear. And one symptom is recovery taking longer than expected. This is not the body failing, or at least not the body failing yet. but it is definitely the body disengaging from its normal growth and meaning oriented trajectory. So let me begin by saying meaning is not a mindset, it's an orienting signal for your whole being. And when that signal weakens, stress lingers longer, recovery slows, and the system quietly withdraws from life. So biology does not automatically rebel, rather, it goes into a survival state. And this state is often misunderstood. It is not sadness, it is not grief, it is not even necessarily trauma, which has become very fashionable. Rather, it's absence of orientation to your north. Another way to say this is it is the lack of meaning and purpose, what your life is for. The human system evolved over thousands of years to regulate itself in service of something. When there is nothing compelling to serve, the system narrows its investment. This is not pathology. It is coherence seeking a biology that has no meaning or purpose. This is when modern medicine often misreads the signal. We stimulate motivation. We try to correct the body biochemistry. We try to push energy back into the system with IVs and glutathione and NAD and cold plunges and so on and so forth. Now, that sometimes does work briefly. But a sense of direction cannot be replaced by force of pushing you into that direction. Because the nervous system is not asking for more energy, it is fundamentally asking for meaning down to your inner core, your essential self. And when that sense of direction returns, not as an idea, but as an embodied, lived orientation, the system reorganizes naturally, not into an excitement, not into an intensity, but into a coherence. Biology does not create meaning. As I said in one of my videos earlier, biology, however, does always respond to meaning. When life makes sense, a healthy sense of well-being, a grounded system follows, which expands your health span, and true longevity begins to arise, not through biohacking, not through forcing it, but by finding a sense of purpose. Why am I living? What am I living for? What's going to be my legacy? What am I going to leave behind? And just why I should have more sense of years allocated to me. I'd invite you to engage with more meaning and purpose and see how well-being arises. And well-being is the leading indicator that eventually is measured as longevity.